Hey everyone! In our series this week, we are focusing on the Roman Republic, the Roman Empire, and Han China, as well as its predecessor, the Qin Dynasty, focusing on the years 753 BCE to 330 CE. So let's dive right in and talk about our key concepts. Even though the Roman Empire and Han China are culturally very, very different, they are linked by their technology and the many developments there, as well as trading the Silk Road, because Roman women could not get enough of silk from China. More key concepts for you. Lots of awesome things going on. Development of religions, development of empires, philosophical thoughts. All right, let's get started, guys. Rome's creation of a Mediterranean empire. As you can see, Rome is in a great location. It's in Italy, surrounded by the Mediterranean Sea, and Italy itself serves as a link between Africa and the rest of Europe. Italy's natural resources include forests, iron, a mild climate, and plenty of great farmland that allows a large population of farmers to thrive, but unfortunately, their surplus product and labor would be exploited by the Roman state. Not just could, friends, would. So, how does this all begin, guys? A republic of farmers. In the beginning, Rome was ruled by a monarch, but over time, the monarchs became more corrupt. And in 509, the patricians, the wealthy upper class, overthrew the king and formed a republic. And despite this new foundation, this new republic, Rome faced a number of threats from outside invasion, specifically the Celts from Gaul, which is modern day France. And the Romans banded together, fought back, and eventually defeated the Gauls. And then they began to conquer other city states in Italy. And they learned quite a bit about the people they were conquering. So the idea here is to form a large kingdom, a large empire, and to tend to unite these people. And one way they were able to unite them was by building a number of roads in Italy connecting the city states. In terms of the social aspect in the Roman Republic, Roman women did have more freedom than Greek women, but their legal status was always that of a child. And they were subordinate to their own families. And then once they married out, they were subordinate to their husbands' families. And Roman families were called paterfamilias. And what that means is in one household, you have a few generations, but you have the sons staying with their wives who are marrying in, and their children and the daughters who marry out. And then, in addition to your husband and your husband's father, your husband's brothers would be there, your husband's children, their children would marry out, marry in. And eventually, procedures do evolve that make it possible for women to become independent after the death of their father. And one way that happens is that women don't marry. Families and individuals were tied together by a patron-client relationship. And we mentioned the patricians before. They're the wealthy upper class. They're the minority. The majority are the client, and they're called the plebeians. And there are going to be periodic conflicts between these two. It's a relationship that institutionalized equality, but it gave both sides of the relationship a reason to cooperate and then support the status quo. So basically, the patron provides the client with advice, legal counsel if needed, money, career opportunities, military protection. In return, the client gives the patron labor. Yeah. As you guys know, Romans worshipped a large number of major gods. Here we have the Hellenistic synthesis, the Greek influence. The Romans adopted Greek gods, but then changed their names. Zeus becomes Jupiter, Poseidon is Neptune, Aphrodite is Venus, but they also sort of create a lesser feeling of importance for Greek gods, specifically Athena. She's a major goddess in Greek mythology. She plays a very small role in Roman mythology. Her name's Athena. the city of Athens. Simple. My Harry Potter fans, though, Minerva, had no idea. All right. Expansion in Italy and the Mediterranean. Beginning in 272 BCE, Rome faced 6 Mediterranean powers in her attempt to expand out of Italy. And this is where you have the Punic Wars kicking in. During the first stage of expansion, Rome was able to conquer the rest of Italy by 290 BCE, and they won the support of the people of Italy by granting them Roman citizenship. And that's a pretty important thing, especially later on when the Roman Empire is expanding and becomes incredibly powerful. You want that Roman citizenship. As citizens, these people had to provide soldiers for the military, which provided Rome with a very large army. In the next stages of expansion, Rome went up against Carthage. And this would actually last, this expansion, beginning in 264 to about 202 BCE. And the First Punic War is Rome versus Carthage. And that would last from 264 to 241 BCE. The second war between 218 and 202, also called the Hannibalitic War, continues to allow Rome to expand. Further expansion over the Mediterranean region, the Eastern Mediterranean focusing on the Hellenistic kingdoms, and then roll out the red carpet, we have Julius Caesar. And his name is Gaius Julius Caesar. He conquers the Celts of Gaul, and this is really what he's known for. The Romans used local elite groups to administer and tax various provinces of the rapidly expanding empire. A Roman governor was supposed to, in theory, serve a single one-year term in office, and they would supervise the local administrators. Now, unfortunately, this is not always what happened. And as Rome began conquering outside of Italy, a new system was created for dealing with the lands. And these people who were outside of Italy, specifically in Gaul when the Celts were conquered, they're not offered citizenship. And this is the real difference between Rome and Italy versus the rest of the world. And this is how large the Roman Republic is at the death of Julius Caesar in 44 BCE. And as you can see, everything in red, so you've got modern day France, which is Gaul, the majority of Spain, parts of Africa, Greece. If you look up, you can see Byzantium. That'll be very important for later because Byzantium is modern day Istanbul, which was Constantinople. So you can see parts of modern day Turkey have been conquered as well. Africa, Cyprus. Guys, this is pretty impressive. And if you think this is impressive, wait until you see the size of the Roman Empire. We'll get there. But all good things must come to an end. As Rome expanded, the social and economic bases of the Roman Republic in Italy were undermined. More political pressure is being brought in after 146 BCE, which is also when Rome defeats Carthage for the third time. Eventually, rules begin changing, and soldiers have to own land to serve in the army. And while men from independent farming families were forced to devote their time to military service, large landowners bought their land. So while these farmers are off fighting in the military, very wealthy patricians start buying up their land to create these great estates called the latifundia. And this meant that Rome's source of soldiers was declining. And that's not good when you're a republic whose power is based on your military, because to be in the military, you have to own land. Because these great estates were being formed, food production also went down. The latifundienda owners preferred to grow cash crops like grapes, because that's how you get wine, rather than staple crops such as wheat. Wheat feeds more people than grapes. And slave labor was cheap in an expanding empire, so Italian peasants were driven off their land, and they were no longer employed by the latifundienda, drifted into cities where they formed a very large unemployed underclass. And in 133 BCE, Tiberius proposed land reforms, and unfortunately, this didn't go so well. In 123 BCE, his brother Gaius proposed even more reforms. But the problem is the damage has been done. Marius, who was a general, waived the land ownership requirement in order to supply his army with soldiers. And Marius is what we would call quite the genius, because suddenly men are giving their loyalty to Marius and not to the Roman Republic. And other generals will start doing this. People like Julius Caesar, Mark Antony, pretty much begin building their own personal armies from this underclass. And this leads to generals taking control of politics, which then leads to civil wars. And finally, it led to the end of the Republican system of government. Julius Caesar used a private army to conquer Gaul, and Caesar would be followed by his great nephew and his heir Octavian, but history remembers him as the name Augustus. And that is where we will stop today. If you have any questions, email me. And as always, have a great night, guys. Cheers.